new EPA standard would force fossil fuel power companies to make deep cuts in greenhouse gas emissions, the equivalent of taking 137 million cars off the road each year, half the cars in the States. The EPA predicts 300,000 fewer asset packs and 1,300 fewer pollution-related deaths. President Biden wants to move the country from coal and gas power plants to clean energy, but the White House is facing serious pushback from Republicans, especially in West Virginia, with 90% of the economy dependent on coal. The Attorney General dares tells being illegal lawsuits to block the rule, arguing it will cost thousands of jobs and drive up electricity rates nationwide. Why the fitness company is requiring million exercise classes. You meet with good God.
Good evening, Camp Springs and friends. I'd like to welcome all and our special guests to tonight's meeting. And I want to wish all women, because all women have some help in raising children, happy Mother's Day. You all enjoy your Mother's Day, okay? Relax, enjoy, get spoiled, do it all, okay? Now, we want to thank Central Baptist Church of Camp Springs family for hosting our community meetings. And I want you to continue, please continue to pray for Pastor Burrows. He's home now, but pray for his healing. You know, there is power in prayer. So please pray for Pastor Burrows. And if some of you haven't heard, I need you to pray for Senator Muse, who's also a pastor. Pray for his speedy recovery. So prayer changes things, okay? Thank you. Now, I want to thank everyone who's come out tonight. Y'all have made my heart very happy. You know, we're going to hear from our elected officials. We're going to hear from, I know some of you are here about the project at Linda Lane. So sit back and relax, and we're going to get ready to move on. So now, before we do anything, I need the board members of the Camp Springs Civic Association who's here in attendance. Can you all please stand for me? Come on, y'all, stand up. The ones that are currently here. We have some people who aren't feeling well, so they're not here. Can you all give them, Mr. Wright, Mr. Wright? Okay. Y'all give them a hand for the work that they've done. And do y'all see their t-shirts? Yeah. Right. Y'all see these t-shirts? Okay, Mama gonna model for me. Come on, Mama. Mama gonna model for me. If we have a fundraiser, and if you want one of these nice t-shirts, you can have one also. They're only $20. So, Miss April Price, where are you? See Miss April Price right there? Just let her know what size you need. And she's cash or checks, or what do you think? And checks. And checks. Put your order in, because you know we do some work out here, and we all want to represent Camp Springs. So y'all make sure y'all have your shirts on when we out here doing our cleanups, whatever we doing in the community. So everyone, because we got to build this membership. We got to build our membership. And that being said, you know, the end of membership is August 31st. But we like trying to do an early membership. So if you like tonight, you can pay your membership dues for the next fiscal year. Membership of $20 for households, and for business members is $30. So I know, don't run, all of you all run back at once, but we would appreciate if you get your membership in. You know, we take checks, cash. There's a, what's that QR code that take you right to the website. And then we have the, what's that thing, that swipe? We got the swipe thing. Square, thank you. We have the square. So don't run, all you run up. I know y'all waiting for, y'all ready for the meeting, but if you can, do your membership early. Thank you. Okay, so the next community cleanup is June the 11th. You know, we're not having one in May because it's Mother's Day. So June the 11th, please look on the website. You know, we put everything on the website, not just what we're doing, but what's going on throughout Prince George's County. Check the website, but we will be sending out the notice for the June 11th community cleanup. Oh, they want you, if you don't have your mask on, unless you have some issues, please put your mask, okay? Okay, unless you have some, like I have some issues right now, so that's why I don't have on my mask. And also, if you all, like we want a beautiful Camp Springs, we're continually pulling down these illegal signs. If you can, pull some down, pull them down, please, because it's making our neighborhood look bad. And we're trying to get them to, they're saying it's difficult, but we're trying to get them to find these people, to, you know, F-I-N-E, find them. But they're saying that they switching numbers out, and that's why it's making it difficult to capture them for this. But they also indicated that, because I was saying that I don't see the problem in Virginia. And they said that they will get in contact with Virginia and see what they're doing, that they don't have this illegal sign issue. Okay. So we have a full agenda. I don't want to take any more time up. We have some of my favorite people here. We have Corporal Miller and Corporal Ponak, District 4 and District 5, who's going to give us an update on our safety that's going on in the community. Y'all give them a hand.
Good evening. I'm Corporal Miller out of Division 4. I have a couple of stats from April the 1st to today's date. First, I'm gonna start with assaults. We had 3 assaults in this area. I don't know if he might talk about it because it actually occurred on their side. We had a shooting with the victim wound up coming to the Kaiser down the street, but it actually happened in the 7,000 block of Allentown Road on the CBS side, on Division 5 side. We had a cutting on Old Branch, which the person didn't want to report it. And we had an assault on a female at Allentown and Westchester. We had no residential B&Es in Camp Springs area, but we did have 7 commercial breaking in. There have been tearing Allentown Road up with commercial breaking in. And Beach Place, which is off over there off Stamp Road and Beach Road, they've been breaking in commercial buildings over there. Other than that, we had no theft from auto. The first, yeah, we're all good on that. No stolen vehicles in Camp Springs. That should occur. So once again, if you see something, especially at night, if you see like a van and you driving down Allentown Road and you see a van pulling up in the shopping center is empty and are a U-Haul truck. Yeah, because they like stealing them. If you see that and it looks unusual to you, pick up the phone and call and let them know what you see, please. Okay, I'll turn it over to District 5. I'll wait for questions at this point.
Good evening. I'm Corporal Pomack. As he said, I'm the Division 5 Community Engagement Officer. I'm going to give you some overall stats for Division 5. Homicides in Division 5 are down 100% this year. Last year at this time, we had 4. We have 0 this year. Robberies, year to date, there's a 0% change. We had 26 last year and 26 so far this year. So it's a net wash. Carjackings, however, are on the increase. We had 4 last year. We had 10 so far this year, and that's 150% increase. That's +6. I think those numbers will probably level off and go down because they've made several arrests on these juveniles that were stealing them, because a lot of them have been juveniles. Stolen vehicles, year to date, it's up 49% in Division 5. Last year we had 57. This year so far we've had 85. So it has gone up this year in Division 5. The good news is, countywide has gone up 192%. So we're doing better than the average. Property crime in Division 5 is up 13%. We had a total of 41 more this year. It was 366 this year compared to 325 last year. So that's the property crime. Violent crime total is up 7%. We had 88 this year and 82 last year. So that's a net increase in property and violent crime in Division 5 of 12%. So that's plus 47 more crimes. We had 407.
Sorry.
We had 407 of them last year and 454 this year. So that's a net increase of total crime of 12% in Division 5. However, in the county, the crime's up a total of 45%. So we're doing better than average. We're still going the wrong way, but we've made some progress in some of them. Like I say, they have made arrests on some of those juveniles. So hopefully that'll help with the carjacking. Is there anybody here from the county that's going to go over and talk about the elderly property tax credit? Somebody else is going to go over it, because I don't want to take your thunder then, because I have some applications and stuff I can leave, but I learned about it at a meeting, so I'll just let them talk about that. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I have questions in relation.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah, I have a question.
Hold.
I don't need a mic.
We have to do mic because
They can't hear you.
the people on the
Sure.
they on the virtual.
No worries. Can you give a clarification?
Turn it on the left side.
Left side.
They'll turn green.
Yeah, it's not turning green. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Can you give a? I promise you I'll just speak loud. Can you give a clarification of what you mean by if you see a van, like the reasoning behind that? Because just if you see a van or a U-Haul, I would hate to call y'all for something that isn't like, clarify what you mean of why the reason why I would need to call you if you see a van or a U-Haul in relation to being in a parking lot.
So I'm gonna give you an example. You take the 7,000 block of Allentown Road where the AutoZone at, crossing.
Right.
Probably like after 10 or 11 o'clock. It's after 10 or 11 o'clock, it's no one in there.
Right.
Right. So if you see a U-Haul pull up in there or a van pull up in there, almost 9 times out of 10 after 11 o'clock at night,
Okay, got it.
they're up to something no good. If you're not familiar, the reason why I use that, there's a pharmacy in there now, and they have drugs in there. They want drugs. So them are one of the prime places. Like you take from the 6,000 block of Allentown Road, almost majority of the commercial buildings in there have been hit. So that's why I say, and some people have seen vans, U-Hauls pull up in there. They thought it was unusual, but they didn't call. So that's why I say, especially during that time of night, you see a U-Haul or van, minivan, something, just that might look at you like, why is that over there? That looks unusual. I mean, I think we all have seen stuff that looks unusual and makes you want to think about it. So you just happen to be coming from work or going to work or coming from church at that time, not revival or something, and you look over and you see that. I mean, that's one way of helping us catch these guys. You know, 90% of the time that we catch these guys is because somebody has called and we catch them in the act of trying to leave from them. That's kind of what I mean. Did I ask you a question?
You did.
I want this thing to go off.
No, it's
So I understand the term breaking and entering, but when you say property crime, I don't know what that entails. Can you elaborate what
Property crime is, say your shed. Your shed was broken into. It's not part of your house, but it's in your yard. Theft from autos. They stole the rims off your car. Stole your tires off your car.
And speaking about theft from autos, I'll give you a little more information, and it hasn't happened probably in the last couple of weeks, but it was going hot and heavy here for a while. If you were going to a post office, ladies, a lot of times y'all will hop out of your car, walk in, you just got to drop a piece of mail in the mailbox or something. You leave your purse in there, they're busting the windows and taking your purses. Okay, same thing at cemeteries. You go to a gravesite, put flowers on a grave. You lock your car, but you walk over with the flowers, they see you, they bust your window, steal it. You go to a funeral at a cemetery. They've hit Resurrection Cemetery, the Veteran Cemetery on 301. So just be aware, if you have something on the seat of your car, you know, the best thing to do is take it with you or put it in the trunk of the car out of sight. Any more questions? Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just do you have cards, and then the stats that you brought up, where would the public access that?
Well, I'm sure they have them at the county side somewhere. This is stuff that we get off our computers at the station. I don't know exactly where they get it. You can go to PGPD, and I think all the crime sites are on our website.
Okay, and do you have cards?
I don't have enough for everybody. I only got like one or two.
And we're planning on getting back to having the crime reports on our website.
Okay.
It's being worked on, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm gonna leave these.
Okay, she told me she has some. You could leave some. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Now, Miss Cheney, can you give us some greetings from Central Baptist?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I just want to bring you greetings on behalf of our pastor, Pastor Lincoln M. Barrison, the First Lady, and the entire congregation of Central Baptist Church. We thank you for spending time with us. We thank you for coming out to the Camp Spring Association. And I just ask again that you continue to lift our pastor up in prayer, because we know that we serve a God that can and will heal. And thank you.
All right.
Okay, so next we have Mr. Proctor and Mr. Tedasco. I know some of you all want to hear about, you seen the signs up about on Linda Lane. So they're gonna give you some information, okay? Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Steve Proctor, as she said, of GS Proctor and Associates. With me this evening in the back there is Monroe Harrison. And we do community outreach on behalf of clients and developers and things of that nature. In fact, we've had the honor and privilege of working with this community for several years. Beside me this evening is Matt Tedesco, and we just have a very simple update for you. First, let me orient you to the project that we're talking about. It's very, very easy. It is literally the facility right next door to you here. It's always been a commercial use. It was Frank's Nursery, and now we represent Mr. Curtis. Mr. Curtis is 80 plus years old, still comes to work every day. That's his main office. He's there on a regular basis. And I'm going to ask Matt to kind of explain it to you, because the truth of the matter is we really don't have a project to present to you this evening. Our request is that we get the opportunity to preserve actually what this group helped us with back in 2018. So some of you all that were members in 2018 helped Matt and I get to what we have. And all we're trying to do, I'll have him explain it to you, and then open it up to any questions that you may have for us, if that's fair. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Can I? Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Thank you all for having us this evening. I want to thank First Baptist Church for hosting this community meeting for us, as well as the residents who are here. It's a great turnout. It's a privilege to be before you. As a Prince Georgian myself, I grew up not too far from here in Upper Marlboro. Don't hold that against me. And I'd like to thank our brethren from the law enforcement. I come from a law enforcement family. My father was the District 5 commander in the early 90s. So it's a pleasure to be before you. As Steve mentioned, we do represent the property owner and business owner next door, which is the Curtis Investment Company, headed up by Mr. George Curtis. Mr. Curtis lives in Brandywine. He's been a Prince Georgian his entire life. As Steve mentioned, he's in his 80s, but he does come to work every single day. Back in 2017-ish, we were approached to look at that property. It was at that time what's known in the prior zoning ordinance was in the commercial shopping center zone. The two residential homes that are next to it were in the R80 zone. Since the property had been used commercially, had residential uses on it, we were asked to rezone the property to a mixed-use transportation zone since it already had a mix of uses on it. So at that time, for about a year and a half, we worked with the community, this organization in particular, and were successful in rezoning the property to what then was known as the MXT zone. Fast forward to 2021 and 2022, as you all may know, the county adopted a new zoning ordinance and adopted what's called a countywide sectional map amendment, which rezoned every property in the county. That property went to what's called the CN zone, commercial neighborhood zone, which allows for a mix of uses. So there's a window of time right now that we have to file what's called a conceptual site plan. It is what it sounds like. It's very conceptual. And what that plan does is it locks in the ability to utilize the MXT zone for 20 years, or we have the opportunity to use the new zone under the new zoning ordinance under the CN zone. So really the application is to really provide flexibility to be able to either use the old zoning ordinance or the new zoning ordinance, given the prior zoning and the existing zoning. So in order to do that, we have to follow the conceptual site plan. That's what those signs are on the property that you see. The planning board is hearing that on June 1st. It proposes, the conceptual site plan is conceptual. We have to propose a certain level of density. That's ultimately, we have no idea if that is what ultimately will ever be developed there. Because of the conceptual site plan and the prior zoning ordinance, the CSP sets the ceiling of what the density can be. It can't go any higher under that approval. If we, when and if we do propose or pursue actual redevelopment of the property, we would then have to come back in and do what's called a preliminary plan of subdivision. That would require the same type of outreach, the same type of community interaction. And then we would also have to do what's called a detailed site plan. So although we're not actually proposing any actual development today, even if any development were to occur sometime in the future, which right now there isn't any proposed, we would be back before you at least 2 other times for 2 other separate applications. So just wanted to clarify what it is and really what it isn't. We don't actually have any proposed development for the project currently. It is the Curtis Investment Headquarters. They're a real estate company. They own property throughout the county, some in the district, a lot in Prince George's County, shopping centers, properties, they do residential development. And so it's their headquarters, it's their main office. They don't have any plans on leaving anytime soon, but because we only have this window really until April 1st, 2024 to file this conceptual site plan, we're at the point of having to do that. So that's what it is. Happy to answer any questions. Depending on the questions, I may not have answers given the fact that it's really just conceptual and there is no development. But if there's a question that we have answers to, we would certainly give them. And yes, ma'am.
So is the filing of the conceptual,
Or
no worries. So is the filing of the conceptual site plan so that you could use the MXT in the future?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. That's exactly right. I mean, if but for that, we wouldn't be filing it.
Okay, those who have questions to make it go faster, can we get you all to line up over here so he don't have to run from here to there? So if you have questions, could you please line up over here? We would appreciate it so we can make it go faster. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So we're doing the zoning change. Has anybody in the Camp Springs area signed up to be a person of record that you know of? So that when you make these changes and you have to go before Maryland Park and Planning, they're made aware of what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know if I don't have that list before me tonight. I will tell you that anybody who was a party of record during the rezoning 5 years ago would have received notification of the CSP and will continue. But to be a party of record for this case, you have to re-sign up. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Oh, and I just wanted to add, one thing that we do is we absolutely, however we proceed, we come before this body. In fact, it was this organization that supported us in 2018. And that's why we're back tonight to say, hey, we want your support again to just kind of preserve to this lady's question, the MXT option as we go forward. But we'll certainly check that list and see if there are any parties of record and share it with you. But one thing we do is we absolutely reach out to your organization.
You mentioned 2 residential houses. I'm assuming that those are the ones that are next to Old Branch Avenue.
She asked when I mentioned that on the property, it consists of the old Frank's nursery building, which is now the Curtis headquarters, and then 2 residential single-family detached homes. And the question was, are those homes the ones that are on Old Central Avenue? The answer is yes.
Does Mr. Curtis have any idea what he wants to do with that?
With those 2 homes or the property?
Yeah, Frank, the building that Frank's used to be in. And then you have the 2 residential properties right there. And they're fairly large. I think they're probably an acre apiece.
So the entire assemblage is only 5 acres. So I don't think they're quite that big.
Acres sound right. Now,
That's including everything.
Okay, Frank's Nursery had a huge park.
It does, yes.
Okay, but the 2 residential, I had no idea that those 2 residentials were somehow part of
They're owned by Mr. Curtis.
Okay, that answers that question. Does Mr. Curtis have any idea what he wants to do with that?
Not at this date, no.
Now, when he passes, God forbid, who will inherit that property?
I couldn't answer that question. It's owned by a company.
It's owned
He's
by
the president of the company.
Okay, so basically they're just covering them. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, we have some questions. Okay, go ahead. Then we have questions from the virtual.
Okay, according to the sign that's over there, it said Temple Hills proposed development, massive housing project at the corner of 5 to be built. CSP 21001 Linden Lane property, mixed use development for 105 multifamily units. That's what the sign says.
Because as I mentioned, the conceptual site plan sets the ceiling. So we have to have some range of development, but we have no actual proposed development. So the MXT zone allows up to 1.4 FAR. So we have proposed for the CSP, the ceiling, which would be 1.39 FAR, and to get to 1.39, that's how you get to that level of density. It may not be multifamily. It may be something else. We just don't know, but we had to set the ceiling for the CSP.
But in actuality, if that is what is passed, then you can put 105.
No, not today. I'd have to do a preliminary plan of subdivision, have to do a detailed site plan. But we wouldn't do anything that wouldn't be permitted by zone, either the MXT zone or the CN zone.
Okay, we'll be watching.
Wait a minute, I want to give the people online a chance. Okay, okay. I don't know if this is. Let me ask you. They think something's wrong with that one.
Okay, first one is, there's a concern about the traffic on that road as the 5 is already at peak and it relates to daily commuter congestion. Perhaps a lesser project with lesser environmental impact would be there.
So good question. With the conceptual site plan, again, it's basically an approval on paper right now because we don't actually have development. I can't tell you it's going to be multifamily. I can't tell you whether it'd be all residential, mixed use. We just don't know. But as I mentioned, regardless of whether we utilize the old zoning ordinance under the MXT or the new zoning ordinance under the CN, we still have to come back and do a preliminary plan of subdivision. The preliminary plan of subdivision, which is the second step in a 3-step process, that's the entitlement that tests adequate public facilities, traffic, police, fire, schools, etc. So all that's done at a later date when we actually have density and proposal of what is actually slated there through the preliminary plan of subdivision. It's not a requirement at the time of conceptual site plan because it's just conceptual. So the adequacy determinations will be made. As far as environmental impacts, there are no environmental features on the property. There's no woodland on the property. There's no wetlands. There's no streams. There's no primary management areas. So there wouldn't be any degradation of any environment. In fact, the zoning ordinances, whether new or old, would require a tremendous amount of landscaping upon redevelopment of that property that far and away exceeds what's out there. So there's really no landscaping, any buffers either along the frontage of Route 5, Linda Lane, Old Branch, or the residents to the south.
Do you have a time frame or when a decision will be made?
No, because when I stood before you all in 2017 and 18, when we were rezoning it, I would never have thought that I'd be here 5 years just now doing the CSP. So no, I couldn't, there is no time frame right now. The only time frame we're up against is the sunsetting of the ability to have this application through accepted and hopefully approved before April 1st of next year.
Can you clarify what the difference is between the MXT and the CN and why you're preferring to continue with the MXT?
So I wouldn't say that we're preferring to continue with MXT. As I mentioned, we only have until April 1st. So the rezoning of the property came at a lot of cost and expense and effort with the community as well as the applicant. We only have until April 1st of next year to file the CSP or we lose the prior zoning MXT. So it's not a preference as much as it is flexibility to make sure that we have in the future to use either one depending on which one is best suited for not only the development, but also what the community wants to see out there. The MXT zone has different table of uses in the CN zone. There could be, and I don't have them memorized, but there could be certain commercial uses, residential uses, or commercial probably in the MXT zone that aren't permitted in the CN or vice versa. So it's really just about flexibility and having the ability to either do one or the other. I mean, I would just say the CN zone allows the same residential that the MXT allows, different density levels, but the same uses.
My question would be, so if we don't sign up to speak at the meeting on June 1st, and we don't show any opposition towards this unplanned future project, is it just so we're not going to know what's going to happen in the future if we don't oppose it now?
That's not true. That's not true at all. So whether you appear at the hearing on June 1st doesn't matter. And I'm happy to send the board members so they can disseminate it, the link to become a party of record. You can register as a party of record and not show up at the hearing. You don't need to oppose something to become a party of record. Once you register as a party of record, you get notifications. The Camp Springs Civic Association gets notifications because by law, we're required to send out mailings for every application 30 days before we make a filing. Under the new zoning ordinance, in addition to those mailings, we have to have pre-application neighborhood meetings to post the property 30 days, send out mailings, notifications, adjoining property owners, registered civic associations, municipalities within 1 mile, and any prior parties of record. So registering as a party of record is really the most important thing as far as staying in touch if you're not an adjacent property owner, if you're not part of the civic association, because then you're on the list to get mailings. That being said, as Steve mentioned, we've worked with this community for a decade or more, if not Steve longer than I have, but on various projects. We understand the importance to have outreach, and in fairness, I do take a little issue with the unplanned project. The project's planned in the sense from a zoning perspective. It's not planned in the sense of a redevelopment project because it's their headquarters and there's no plan to leave anytime soon. But we are up against the clock with respect to the prior zoning that we all worked together on and achieved. So we're just trying to, again, lock that in place, have the flexibility to kind of pivot if we need to pivot for the betterment of what we all want to do together.
And I just wanted to clarify one thing that you said also, whether you sign up as a party of record, which is absolutely something we would encourage. But even if no one does, on June 1st, Matt does not get a blank check to go do any kind of project. He just retains the flexibility to go with the old or the new. Whichever route we go, we have to come back before this community and do the preliminary plan and the DSP. So we would do this all over again at least twice and present at that time, quote, unquote, the project. Does that make sense to you? Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Hi there, again.
Hi.
One of the things that I'm not sure that everybody in this room knows about, how many of you know that we are in a federally sustainable designated area? It's where Camp Springs was designated a sustainable designated area back in 2011. Renewed again on 2014. So to the question, I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you in a minute. So the question online, which was asking about the environmental impact, I believe if you work with us in the sustainable program will help that, since you don't have wetlands, but there's some things that were outlined in the community action plan that will benefit everybody in here, as well as your project. So sustainable, the sustainability basically says an area that has not been developed in over 30 years and needs assistance to be viable in the sustainable world gets a designation. So Camp Springs was designated years ago. We just haven't been using it. So working with Mr. Tedesco, I think we can use it now.
Absolutely.
Using this product.
And that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up, and I'll be really quick. Yes, sometimes I'm sorry for being over lawyerly sometimes, but the question was what are the impacts and not so much what are the benefits. Certainly upon redevelopment, there's no existing, as I mentioned, landscaping, very little green area, but certainly no existing stormwater management features on the property right now. So when it rains, that water just sheet flows to wherever it goes. There's no treatment of the water, whether quality or quantity. Upon redevelopment, whenever we get there, we will be required to do significant stormwater, among many other things. Environmental stewardship, building techniques, the list goes on. But primarily stormwater is kind of one of the big, especially where older infill, this would be an infill redevelopment when it happens, if it happens. Stormwater is one of the biggest benefits of it because currently there is no stormwater features on the property. So the water would be treated 100-year control, 100-year storm control, as well as quantity and quality, quantity and quality.
I have a whole slew of questions on here, but this meeting's from 7 to 9.
You can email them.
Okay, so the additional questions, we're going to email them so you can have clarification. Can you please give Mr. Proctor and Mr. Tedesco a round of applause for coming out to answer our questions? We appreciate you. We really do. Like he said, they've been working with us for years.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so let's hear from our legislators from District 26. May I have, we're going to start off with our senator's office. As we informed you, continue to pray for Senator Muse for his speedy recovery. But we have his legislative director, Ms. Brandy Calhoun, who's going to come and give us greetings and provide you some information, and we're going to take some questions. But again, because of time restraints, if we have a lot of questions, what we'll do is we can shoot them to you. Okay, thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Once again, thank you first to Central Baptist Church of Camp Springs and Pastor Lincoln Barris for allowing us to use this facility for tonight's meeting, to President Taylor, to Vice President Harrison, and to all of the Camp Springs Civic Association board members and community members online and here tonight in person. And also, I want to honor our elected officials that are here. Delegate Turner's here. Oh yes, Delegate Woods is here. Delegate Valderrama is here, so I will be short. And then I know Plachette is here for Councilman Burrow's office as well. And he should be on his way, right? Or are you speaking on his behalf? Okay. All right, so thank you once again, and to our officers that were here. Again, I am Brandy Calhoun, Senator Muse's legislative director. And tonight we also have from our office, Jasmine Hall. She is Senator Muse's chief of staff. Jasmine, wave your hand. And Tequila Taylor, she is Senator Muse's legislative assistant. And Liz Chambers, she is our constituent liaison, and we also share her along with Delegate Turner. She also works in Delegate Turner's office. As some of you know, and as the president mentioned, Senator Muse underwent an unexpected medical procedure. He is out of the hospital and he is home. He's doing a lot better and recovering. He just has to have limited interaction in large group settings for the next couple of weeks. But I'm here on his behalf to share some brief highlights from the 2023 legislative session. As some of you may know, during the 445th legislative session, the legislature passed a $63.1 million budget. And the core role of the General Assembly in any legislative session is passing a balanced budget for the next fiscal year. Basically, they are tasked with bringing home the bacon to Prince George's County and to their local districts. As we know, federal funding from COVID-19 pandemic is slowly going away, but the legislature made some responsible investments to benefit our state residents and economy. Just a few highlights from the $63.1 million budget. Some of those highlights are: we brought back $14 billion in Medicaid funding to provide healthcare coverage for 1.5 million residents, $8.5 billion for Maryland public pre-K through grade 8-12 schools, $2 million for tax relief for our veterans. Thank you for any veteran that's in this room tonight, and for working families, $86 million in public safety and victim services enhancement, and $40 million in increases to support domestic violence victims and rape crisis centers. In addition to bringing back funding to our Maryland residents, Senator Muse and the team worked to bring back money to fund projects specifically in the 26th legislative district, which includes $250,000 for First Class Sports Academy, $200,000 to Pillars of Faith, which is a nonprofit, to renovate and design a community space for health and wellness programs, $200,000 to the town of Forest Heights for their Forest Heights Police and Safety Center, $50,000 for Ivy Vine of Prince George's County. They want to expand their 2 facilities equipped with state-of-the-art technology, $100,000 to the monument on the Potomac. They're going to have an African-American monument on the Potomac down at National Harbor, and $50,000 to the Prince George's County Volunteer Marine Fire and Rescue Department for the renovation of the facilities for Station 57, which is in Fort Washington. Also, $100,000 to Potomac High School for their men's and women's locker room improvement. Additionally, Senator Muse was the primary sponsor for over 14 pieces of legislation, and he co-sponsored and voted in support of hundreds of pieces of legislation this session. I wanted to first discuss some legislation that impacted the 26th district. Senator Muse, along with Delegate Veronica Turner, and she was the House sponsor, both worked with Mayor Washington, Council President Troy Lilly, and the entire Forest Heights Council with Senate Bill 506, which was the Urban Renewal Authority for Blight Clearance, which directly affects the District 26 and the town of Forest Heights by granting the town the authority to exercise urban renewal powers in area zone for commercial use for blight clearance and redevelopment. Actually, 67 other municipalities across the state already had this authority. So this just granted our only municipality, which is the town of Forest Heights. We only have one in the 26th district. Now they have this authority. And then I don't know if many of you are like me, but this legislative session, Senator Muse wanted to take a closer look at the health and wellness of our community. That's why he sponsored Senate Bill 966, the Prince George's County Work Group on Health and Wellness. This legislation was extremely important, not only to Senator, but to me and a number of our community members. It passed the full Senate, but it did not pass the House. But the senator will submit this legislation again next year, and we would love your input on this legislation. Currently, as written, this legislation would have required the work group to review the availability of health and wellness practices in our county, the available options for integrative health and wellness programs in the county, and programs that promote healthy eating within the county government agency. The work group would also be tasked with making recommendations, best practices in health and wellness community, including strategies and programs that promote healthy eating, improve equitable access to healthy, affordable, and accessible food retailers, and improve access to gym, rec centers, playgrounds, promote healthy eating, physical activity, and lifestyle changes. I don't know about you, but I don't want to see another fast food restaurant pop up in the 26th district. And then right next to it, you'll see a dialysis center. And then right next to that, you'll see a liquor store. So it has to be some changes. So whatever input you have on this legislation, please send it to us. This legislation would also give incentives to any business that would locate. So we have a juice business that wants to locate here in Prince George's County or in the 26th district. We want them to come, but it's expensive. To eat healthy, it's very expensive. So how do we bring those businesses to the 26th district? You can't just ask them to come and then not support them. So that's one of the pieces of legislation that he's really passionate about. As some of you may know, expungements have been one of Senator Muse's top priorities while serving in the legislature. I'm not sure about you, but by raising hand, I'm not the same person that I was at 25 that I am now at 44. And hopefully we all grow up and mature. In 2015, Senator Muse successfully sponsored 2 pieces of expungement legislation, Senate Bill 651 and 652, which in that first year allowed over 10,000 Maryland residents the ability to get their records expunged. And that's why we have so many of these expungement workshops. That was his legislation in 2015. This year, he set out to expand the expungement legislation with Senate Bill 505. It was criminal procedure expungement and shielding probation before judgment for driving while impaired or under the influence. This legislation passed the Senate and the House floor, but did not cross back over in time for enrollment. So we didn't get it passed, but we're going to submit it again next year. As amended, SB 505 would have expanded the eligibility of convictions that qualify for expungement to include driving under the influence or while impaired after 15 years. Again, I said after 15 years. So we're not trying to expunge anyone's record who just had a DUI. This is after 15 years, and the petition for expungement is based on a PBJ or probation before judgment could not be filed earlier than 15 years after the person was discharged from probation. In addition, repeat offenders did not qualify under this legislation. Another important piece of legislation that he sponsored and we were able to get passed, actually Jasmine, our chief of staff, she actually worked hard on this piece of legislation. It was Senate Bill 940, pharmacies, prescription, drug, accessible labels for blind, visually impaired, and print disabled individuals. This legislation now requires pharmacies to provide notice to blind or visually impaired customers and ensure that accessible prescription drug labels are available upon request. It also establishes standards for accessible labels and ensures that prescription readers, which provide information in an audible format, are available in conjunction with accessible labels. So this is very important for our visually impaired community. I will stop with this last piece of legislation. We all know that he actually sponsored. We all know that we have an opioid crisis here in America. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, more than 106,000 persons in the United States died from a drug overdose in 2021. This is an actual crisis. He was successful in sponsoring Senate Bill 546, Criminal Procedure Medical Emergency Immunity, which now makes certain that a victim of an overdose or medical emergency is provided the same immunity as the person for calling for help in other emergencies. More specifically, both the victim and the person who calls for help will receive immunity from arrest, prosecution, and a charge related to possession of controlled dangerous substance. A lot of times when someone is having a drug overdose, the person won't call for help in fear that now they will be arrested. So this will protect them. If their friend is having a drug overdose, we want them to call. We don't want another person to die from an opioid overdose. So this legislation is successfully passed and it will be signed into law next Tuesday. Just to highlight a couple pieces of legislation that Senator Muse co-sponsored and passed this year. One was Senate Bill. Okay, all right. And then lastly, we have our full legislative wrap up. If anyone needs it, we have senatorial scholarship applications. That process is still open for anybody who lives in the 26th legislative district. Please go on our website, senatormuse.com. And that is it. I'll stop for any questions.
But what we're gonna do is, I hate to cut you short, it's just that the other session went along. I apologize for that. So what we're gonna do is, please write down your questions. But what we wanna do is we wanna give all of our elected official time to provide their report, and then we'll go back to questions. So write down your questions and then we'll come back. So next we'll have our delegate Turner, who lives in Camp Springs. So give her a round of applause. Thank you. Y'all know this is Miss Veronica Turner, right?
I hope so. Because there's nothing but family in this room. All these years I've been here, and I love Camp Springs. Look at y'all. Y'all looking so beautiful, all of you. And I'm just so happy to see so many numbers that you up here saying you want your membership to get larger. Look at the room, ain't God good? It is wonderful. I'm gonna make this short and sweet. You know why? The Senator Muse said it all. But I want you to know everything. And this is his year that he came back in office. And everything that he have done. And they called me and says, I want y'all to work on it in the House side. Remember, there's two sides. There's the Senate side and the House side. It's got to pass both sides before it'll go up to the governor. So we all work together as a team. I want you to know that the 26th district is back together. We were the best district. 26th district was the best district. And I want you to know we are working for you. All the things that he has done with scholarships, we give scholarships also. I've got 68 scholarships already, and they're still coming in. Applications are still coming in. And then it is not just for the high school students. I want you to know we give scholarship to other people. Okay, as long as they're in the 26th district. We have now two seniors, which is Delegate Chris Valderrama and myself. I myself going into my 17th year. And so Chris is going into hers. But we have a famous person that we got, Delegate. What is your name, darling? I better know it. I met Jamela Woods. She is a jewel. She came on board. I want y'all to know that she started working as a team. How many people in this room came to the 26th district night that we had here? Nobody from Camp Spring? Oh, I see a hand. Oh, you heard Beverly, my girl. She said that y'all didn't get the notice out to Camp Springs, but guess what? It will never, ever happen again. Camp Springs is going to be on the mailing list, and we're going to make sure our next 26th legislative district, which we had here, we had it here in Accokeek. And we had a big crowd, and, you know, so some of the people did get the message out, and we had a nice time. But that's okay. Camp Springs, guess what? You are on the mailing list. So we won't ever happen again. And I'm, for myself, Delegate Turner, apologize tonight for not just going out to make sure that y'all got that notice. And I apologize, press. Won't happen again, okay? Well, I, for one, is not gonna bore you because everything that Brandy said that happened, happened. All the bills she said passed, passed. So believe me, when we brought home the bacon, we brought home the bacon. I want y'all to know we are still the best. So I am going to sit down and they can get my number at any time to call me. I am not far because I live in Camp Springs. Okay, so I'm not far. So here is your president. Thank you for inviting me and I appreciate it.
Coming out. Thank you so much. Give Delegate Turner our hand. Next, we're gonna have Delegate Chris Valderrama. She's gonna come up and give her report. And following Delegate Valderrama, we're gonna have Delegate Woods. Jamila Woods gonna come up, okay? Thank you. You wanna put it back? Thank you.
Good evening, Camp Springs. Good evening, Camp Springs. Let me just preface by saying thank you so much to Central Baptist Camp Springs Church and to Pastor Burrs and the First Lady for your hospitality in hosting the Camp Springs Civics Association meeting. Thank you so much to President Monique Taylor and Vice President Delonta Harrison for the inclusion of inviting me to your annual and sometimes not annual meetings. But I look forward to your event always. Having said that, I know we're in a tight time schedule. If Mr. Proctor is still here, he took up half the time, but that's just me messing with him. Having said that, I just want to try and cover as much information as possible, especially pieces of legislation that I personally worked on. I'll start with, I want to mention our one municipality that is in District 26, which is Forest Heights. I was approached by the soon-to-be mayor, Troy Lilly. We just had a meeting 2 nights ago. Delegate Woods and I were there, and that news came about as Delegate Calvin has stepped down. We weren't given any reasons, but everything's good. But I mentioned Forest Heights because was able to get in our budget $200,000 for their public safety center, which I believe Ms. Brandy Calhoun mentioned in her remarks on behalf of Senator Muse. I also want to mention one of the big pieces of legislation that I've been working on, not just this session, but over many years, is Route 210. I know all of you live out here in Camp Springs, but I know many of you utilize Indian Head Highway Route 210 and are very familiar with the unfortunate tragedies and deaths and fatalities that have occurred over the years. If you don't know, nationwide, it is known as the Highway of Death. I think we can all attest we do not want that recognition, not for Route 210. So over the years, I've put in several pieces of legislation for speed camera legislation. I know that is not popular in our district. I'm very well aware of that. I also know it is not the answer to all regarding the speeding that is taking place on Route 210. But having said that, the piece of legislation that I think is very important, I put 2 pieces of legislation in regarding 210, and that was to increase the maximum number of speed monitoring systems on 210 from 3 to 6. We were able to get the 6. It requires State Highway Administration to report annually its recommendations. And the reason why this piece of legislation was so pertinent and imperative is because there was a sunset that was going to take place this year. But we were able to move that sunset to 5 years, which would be September in 2028. So this passed the House 99-35 and passed the Senate 42-5. Its companion bill that I put in, which unfortunately did not come out of the Environment and Transportation Committee, although there was many discussions and debate, provided all the statistics that were required to get this bill through. And what my bill would have done, which was supported by the D-2016, was to increase fines for recidivism drivers, especially those who are aggressive drivers. I don't have my stats in front of me right now, but I'm happy to provide it should you wish to have that information. But basically, we have drivers who really don't care and have been continually going beyond the speed limit. And to give you an example, I don't know what type of vehicle can do this, but there was a car that was clocked at about 160 plus miles per hour. And guess what his fine was? $40, because of the current laws that we have. So basically, the legislation was to seek increasing the penalties. I got a lot of pushback, although we provided the information that was needed. The District of Columbia does this already. And as I said before, I know the issue with speed cameras is that people look at it as just a revenue generating mechanism. Yes, it does generate revenue, which I'm sure we definitely need in our county. However, I have no problem with instituting speed camera legislation because it's needed. And like I said, it's not the answer to all. But if you don't like it because it's generating revenue, please slow down. So that's basically the only answer that I can give that makes sense and is common sense. With that, I will plan to bring that legislation forward. What I do want to mention that I think is very important and crucial is that because for those of you who have not come up to Annapolis, I encourage you to do so. I appreciate Camp Springs, the members, many members here who have reached out to my office personally and virtually and by phone. I appreciate it. I represent you. I am you. So I do that job for you, and it's my honor to do so. Having said that, when it comes to legislation, because I have been reached out by some of you here regarding 210, not only should you just call me, but please come up, testify, show your face, let them know that you want it and not just Delegate Valderrama in the District 2016, because that's not how it works. But as I told the committee and the subcommittee, I will be bringing this legislation every year until they pass it. Having said that, I also want to mention House Bill 443, which deals with our veterans. For those of you who serve, thank you so much for your service and who continue to serve. Much appreciated. This is a bill that I've been putting in for the last several years as well. It's a property tax exemption for dwellings of surviving spouses of disabled veterans. And just to make a long story short, I have a constituent from Oxon Hill who's been widowed for several years now. Her husband, who served diligently and honorably, had fatality, what it had to do with, I believe it's Agent Orange from back many years. And while it is evident that she is a widow of a supporting veteran, there are some loopholes when it comes to the state with exemptions. And so we were just trying to push forth. She had certain documentation that showed that she was a widow. It was to propose a property tax exemption for surviving spouses who qualify for dependency and indemnity compensation. I was this close to getting it passed, only to be told the reason it didn't move out of the committee was because of its fiscal note. So yes, it would increase finances in the state, but I do believe for those of us, or for those of you who have served, this is a no-brainer, in my personal opinion. Also, I want to mention a bill that I worked on. It passed last year, but there was an implementation bill that was brought forth this year. I believe Delegate Woods may or may not mention, but she serves on the committee that deals with it. But I was the primary sponsor last year of paid family medical leave, which we finally got passed in Maryland. And I'm so proud of that piece of legislation and all the sponsors who were there that predecessed me with this issue. For those of you you're familiar with, and if you're not, it's not FMLA. This would allow House Bill 988 implements the milestone legislation, which was called the Time to Care Act, for paid family and medical leave. It's the critical modifications in this bill allow Maryland to begin providing the needed time off and partial wage recovery. And I want to emphasize partial wage, not full wage, but partial, through the state administered insurance program, which is the Family FAMLI fund, funded by both employers and employees, and that the workers and families need to care for those who need to care for, whether it's a newborn child or alien family member. The bill improves the administration of the Family and Medical Leave Insurance Program by clarifying and altering certain provisions for that legislation. With that said, I also want to mention, I was not the primary sponsor, but worked with the sponsor and subcommittee members regarding cannabis reform. I know there's many of you here who expressed your opposition and support. There was a mix of what I received in my office, but as you know, that passed. And so the primary bill sponsor, who is the chairman, C.T. Wilson, who represents Charles County, who is an attorney as well, was not a fan of the measure, but because the assignment was tasked with him and other legislators, including ourselves here, that his goal was to make sure, since it's passed and it's coming, was to prevent people of color, especially our young Black men, who are always accused or being, they're offending and having these high increased felonies and the like, that would not be the case. It also basically, House Bill 556, which is the cannabis reform legislation, it creates an equitable and licensing tax and regulation framework for the new cannabis industry. It also incorporates the best recreational cannabis practices from other states and lessons that are learned from the Maryland medical cannabis implementation, because as you know, we've had legal medicinal marijuana in the state. It also allows license seekers to apply for a combined medical and recreational adult use licenses. It includes a low tax rate as well that will help discourage an illicit market, and that was a primary goal of this legislation as well, while still helping fund support for social equity applicants. You might be familiar over the years when we first passed medicinal marijuana, there was a big coup because there was business owners who became licensee holders and many of them not of color. So there was a big revamp of who would be licensee holders and the like. And so when recreational passed, this was a big part of that bill, to discourage an illicit market, while still helping fund support for social equity applicants and disenfranchised communities. It also creates a more equitable application process to give social equity applicants who were disproportionately impacted by cannabis prohibition, and an equal opportunity to compete for licenses, to include 4 points: a low application fee, priority consideration in the licensing process, a state-provided technical services, and targeted grants and loans to help jumpstart new businesses. I want to mention there is a form that is coming up, and I'm pulling it up right now in case anyone's interested. And if anything that I'm mentioning this evening, you have questions or the like, or we get cut off, please contact my office. I'm happy to do that, as well as use the email chris@chrisvalderrama.com. That will be seen in a timely manner compared to the state address, which does get looked at, but the email I just provided will be looked at most expediently. So I want to mention on May 20th, there will be the first annual Maryland Cannabis Reform Summit. It's May 20th from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. And it will be located at the James E. Proctor Building, room 121 at Bowie State University. And there are several key speakers, and one of them is the primary sponsor of the legislation, who is Chairman Delegate C.T. Wilson. Again, I can provide that information to you once again if you're so interested in regarding. Oh, I can send it to Ms. President Taylor, and she'll get it out to all of you. With that said, I just want to mention quickly that as far as the balanced budget, we are required by law to pass the balanced budget every year. The final budget preserves $2.5 billion in the rainy day fund and just over $350 million in the general fund, meeting the spending affordability targets set by us in December. Also, I want to mention public schools. Direct support to local school systems increases by approximately $660 million, which is about 9% from the prior year, resulting in a total investment of $8.7 billion for the Maryland public schools, and $900 million will go toward the blueprint for Maryland's future fund. Now, none of your team here, the senator and myself and the 2 delegates, we do not serve on the education committee, but should you require more information for the blueprint, again, happy to provide that to Camp Springs so that it can get it out to all of you. With that, I'll also mention one last thing, the higher education. The budget also provided $243.7 million increase in state support to Maryland's 4-year public colleges and universities, which is a total increase of approximately 11% and a $40 million, 12% increase for community college. I'm a big proponent of community college. I went to community college, my kids go to community college and now transferring on. With that said, I'm happy to take questions when the time is right. I just wanted to highlight those pieces of legislation and that forum. And again, it is my distinct honor and humbling honor to represent all of you here at Camp Springs, and thank you for the honor of representing you. Have a blessed evening.
Come on up, Delegate Woods. And then I want to thank, I see that our councilman, y'all know he ran here. He came from out of town just to come speak to us tonight and install the new officers for Camp Spring. Can I give him a round of applause, please?
Good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. It is an honor to be here. First, let me give honor to God because we're in the house of God and acknowledge Pastor Lincoln Barris and his wonderful wife as we continue to pray for his complete healing. I also want to acknowledge and thank President Monique Taylor and Vice President Delonte Harrison for inviting me to participate. Good evening, Camp Springs. Good evening. I am so excited to have served my first session as a freshman delegate in Annapolis, and I tell y'all, it was a ride. Amen, amen. And I have so many of you to thank for your support, for your prayers, for your encouragement. I'd be remiss if I did not thank in his absence Senator Muse, who asked me to be a part of his ticket, and thank Delegate Turner and Delegate Valderrama, who were so supportive and helpful to me as I began this process. It's one thing, Jonna, to be an advocate in the community and protesting and fighting and testifying. It's a whole nother thing to be behind the desk, right? To have to help to provide that legislation, defend that legislation and support that legislation. As a freshman, I just want to let you know some of the things that I had the opportunity to do while serving my first session in Annapolis. I was extremely elated, shocked, surprised to be the only freshman who was elected to the legislative executive branch of the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland, which is the largest legislative Black caucus in the United States. I also serve on the Women's Caucus, thank you, the Latina Caucus, and of course, as a part of the Prince George's delegation. I am assigned to the Health and Government Operations Committee, and the subcommittees are the Insurance and Pharmaceuticals and Health Occupations and Long-Term Care subcommittees. I'm extremely excited because when I went to Annapolis, I was told with love to not be married to my bills, that I just have to understand that they're not going to get passed, that it just doesn't work like that. It's going to take a minute. Somebody say, but God. I'm sorry. I was so honored and excited and thrilled to have sponsored two primary bills, both of which passed the House and the Senate unanimously with both Democrats and Republicans. And so that was extremely exciting for me. I also co-sponsored another 132 bills, 30 of which have already been signed into law by the governor. Just to give you a little bit of specifics of what I did, I sponsored HB 19, which requires the State Board of Examiners of Psychologists to issue electronic licenses for registration. As many of you know, mental health is a huge issue impacting those of us in the state of Maryland. While the pandemic of COVID is over, how many of you know we have a pandemic of mental health challenges that need to be addressed? And there were so many psychologists in the state of Maryland who were unable to get licenses because they had this antiquated licensure process. And so my first bill said, listen, Linda, everybody else is doing this stuff electronically, right? We need to make sure that we bring psychologists up to par. And so we did that, and I'm excited that that did pass and has already been signed into law by the governor. I also passed another bill because the state of Maryland some years ago made a law that says 29% of all procurement contracts have to go to small, minority, and women-owned businesses. We put that law into effect, but nobody held anybody accountable. Nobody went back to see our people following it. So I put a law into effect which is HB 245, which requires an accurate accounting of the state's contracts, all procurement contracts with small, minority, and women-owned business. And that also passed and has been signed into law by the governor. And so we also are asking not just to know, to make sure that we're making sure that our MBEs are getting the attention, but we also want to know why some of them are not being getting contracts, and what are some of the barriers and how can we improve that. So I'm excited about that. As I said, I'm a part of the Health and Government Operations Committee, and so I do want to highlight just a few bills that directly relate to health. I look forward prayerfully to work with Senator Muse with any health-related bills. It is imperative that we work together as a team. And so that is one of the things that I have been really trying to, make sure we do in this 26th legislative district. I think we make a doggone good team. And I'd like to see us, work together and make sure we're all co-sponsoring each other's legislation, make sure we all co-sponsoring bond initiatives so that together we can better improve this district together. That is my goal. One of the things that the governor assured was put into place was to improve the quality of behavioral health care delivered in primary care settings by expanding access to the collaborative care model for Medicaid recipients, set Maryland on a path to establish a statewide network of certified community behavioral health clinics, address Maryland's behavioral health workforce challenges through the establishment of a behavioral health workforce investment fund, restore access to home and community-based wraparound services for children and youth with high-intensity behavioral health needs, to eliminate inequities in access to care for LGBTQ individuals by extending access to gender-affirming care, also to increase funding for Maryland's 988 suicide and crisis prevention lifelines. And so these were some of the priorities of our governor. I also, as I mentioned earlier, specifically, as I served as primary sponsor on one of 53 bills. There were 53 bills specifically related to healthcare. I was the primary sponsor of one and a co-sponsor of the other 52, 11 bills specifically related to mental health. I also heard your concerns regarding transportation and co-sponsored 5 bills related to issues such as transportation improvement, street racing and state highway cleanup. Climate change and health-related environmental sustainability programs was another issue that was brought to my attention. So I co-sponsored 10 bills related to utilizing and maintaining healthier lifestyle and living options. I sponsored 1 bill and co-sponsored 4 bills related to small women and minority-owned businesses. That is about what I have done. I am excited to be here. I too am excited, as my colleagues have articulated, to be of service to you. Was very happy to co-host this 26th district night. And again, I also apologize that you all did not get the information. We're going to make sure that you get the information in the future. But I do want you to know that we are going to start something called the 26th District Dialogue Series. Please write it down. May 24th, it will be held at the Oxon Hill Library from 7 to 8:45 p.m. And I am so excited that some of the things that we are going to do as a team are to highlight businesses in the 26th legislative district so that we can make sure we're supporting and help to see that our own are making it. Highlight residents. I'm so excited. The first highlight that we're going to have on May 24th is a woman who only raised children who she adopted. She's 72 years old. She adopted children, then she adopted their children as her grandchildren. She homeschooled all of them. And she has tremendously worked. They're all doing well. You'll see us highlight her. I look forward to highlighting some of you in our 26th District Dialogue Series. We're also going to address some of the issues. You heard about some development issues. We're hearing about transportation issues, housing issues. We're going to be here for you. We are going to have a 26th District Dialogue Series once every quarter so that you all can come out. We're going to have them at different libraries in the 26th District, and we hope that you'll be a part of that. I don't want to go over too much more of what was said by my colleagues, but as Delegate Valderrama said, we need you in Annapolis. Right? We can't do this by ourselves. You let us know what we can do to help you to come up and to testify for bills, to articulate your concerns. We work for you. We're here for you. I hope that we can be a better service to you. They already talked about the budget, which was a priority that we passed. Also building more affordable rental housing, assisting those who are chronically in need. The governor's bill provided $175 million a year to make Maryland's earned income tax credit one of the highest in the nation, and child tax credit expansions permanent to help struggling and middle income families here in Maryland. Also, if you don't know this, Maryland became the first state in the country to reimburse fraud victims for stolen SNAP benefits. And so we're extremely excited about that. I am so happy to be of service to you. If you want to reach out to me, my email is jamila.woods@house.state.md.us. My telephone number 301-858-3544. I do have some copies of our legislative wrap up. If you'd like to have a copy, I'll give them out as long as they are available. And I also have business cards. Thank you again for being of service. I hope to see you again more and more and more. My staff, many of you have met Kevin McMullen and Thomasine Mitchell, who come out and help you all with your cleanup and some of your activities. We want to know everything you're doing, and we want you to know everything we're doing, because we're going to work together as a team to continue to improve the state of Maryland. Thank you on behalf of Senator Muse, Delegate Turner, Delegate Valderrama, and myself. Thank you. Sure. I want to repeat that our 26th District Dialogue Series will be held on May 24th. That is on a Wednesday from 7 o'clock until 8:45 p.m. It will be held at the Oxon Hill Library, and everyone is invited. Come with your questions, come with your suggestions, and let's look at ways that we can improve the 26th District and the state of Maryland. Thank you.
We get the email address one more time.
The email address is Jamila, Jamila, Jam, that's M as in music, ILA.woods@house.state.md.us. Thank you again so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can we give all of our legislative District 26 a great round of applause for all the work that they're doing on our behalf? Thank you so much. I apologize that I know we got real caught up in the issue on Linda Lane, that we weren't able, they rushed through. We appreciate that you all came out. We didn't know that it was going to go that long with that issue, but we do want you all to come back out. And those who are here, those who are online, if you have questions, get them to us and we'll get them to them. And then some of them, you have their email address, send it to them. They are approachable, okay? Because we do have a major concern that we want to discuss, and that's with the juveniles and the things that are going on with our juveniles. And it's the residents are, they're afraid to go out because of the carjackings, the thefts and things like that. And but we don't want to be prisoners in our home, and we don't want to lock up our juveniles, put them away for life, but there has to be some accountability for the things that they're doing in the community. So we want to discuss that further, okay? And we really appreciate that you all came out. And so I know we're running out of time. Without further ado, first I have Miss, yes, ma'am.
Really quickly, what is the email that people should send their questions to as far as Civic Association? What email?
Oh, sure. That's Camp Springs with an S, CA. No. I'm doing the wrong one. Lord have mercy. It's CSCA.media@gmail.com. I done got caught up. Y'all forgive me. Well, where's Miss Beverly Taylor? Hi, Miss Beverly Taylor. Everyone know Miss Beverly Taylor. This is the chair of our transportation, Lord Jesus, help me. Liaison for our senior citizen concerns.
Okay. Oh, wow. Y'all give a round of applause.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. I didn't turn around and look to see how many people were here. Thank you for coming out. The president selected a nominating committee because this is the election year. And I'm the chairperson of the nominating committee. I think because I got this gray hair and I'm the oldest one there. But anyway, very hard to get volunteers. Very hard to get volunteers to run for president, vice president, secretary, correspondent secretary, and treasurer. Can the executive staff come up front, please? Everybody? Yeah, the new officers, not the old. Okay. Yes. Okay. I would like to present to you your executive staff for Camp Springs Civic Association. Come up front, please, so everybody can see you. Don't stand in front of me.
Don't forget, y'all. Y'all better order your shirts.
Okay, this is not shirt time. Okay, come on. Don't stand in front of me. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your executive staff. And I want to present to you Monique Taylor, who will be your president. Okay. Delonte Harrison, your vice president. Crystal Isaac, who is new. Crystal, raise your hand. Praise the Lord. As the recording secretary. Right. Carolyn Fleming, our correspondent secretary. And Diane Randolph, treasurer. Delonte, you got a lot of women for us here.
That's right, that's right.
It is very hard, like I said before, to get people to volunteer. People will help you a little bit, but they don't want to be in a responsible position. So we are blessed to have our councilman. Oh, he's here.
Yeah.
Edward Barrows. This man has come in office and he is just busy, busy, busy. That's a good sign because he's working. So glad to hear that. He is going to install our officers. He's gonna, give an oath. Y'all gonna raise your hand. Okay. And these are your officers, Camp Spring, for the next 2 years for the Camp Springs Civic Association. All right.
8 years, right?
No, it's not 8 years. Oh. Okay, these ladies and gentlemen do not get paid, but they work hard for you, believe it or not. They really work hard. Our councilman, Edward Barrow.
Thank you. Yeah, just lift it up so. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
And I'm so happy to be here. As I said, I came straight off the plane to be here because this is my home civic association. I've lived in Camp Springs, 1 street over from Delegate Turner for most of my life. And next door is neighbors with Jana Parker here. So I feel great to be here at home. Each of you have been selected to serve as officers of the Camp Springs Civic Association. You will serve during the term July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2025.
Can each of you raise your right hand and repeat after me? I state your name.
I, Taylor,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of,
that I will faithfully execute the office
and state your office, of the Camp Springs Civic Association.
of the Camp Springs Civic Association,
And I will, to the best of my ability,
and I will do that with my ability,
serve as a living example to those in this organization
serve as a living example to those in this organization,
and follow the purpose policies according to the bylaws.
and follow the purpose policies according to the bylaws.
I hereby install each of you as officers of the Camp Springs Civic Association. Congratulations. And I have some goodies for you as well. First, to our phenomenal president, who's done such a great job at representing the Civic Association, not just here in Camp Springs, but all throughout the county, including in Largo. She's at all of our community meetings, and she is not shy to advocate for what we need here in Camp Springs. Thanks for our vice president. Thank you so much, sir. We look forward to continuing to work with you, and thank you for all that you're doing. Ms. Isaac. I'm in reverse order. All right. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Ms. Fleming, here you go. Thank you. Last but not least, Ms. Randall.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a photo?
Yeah. I thought y'all love each other.
We do.
We love each other.
Can we get one with team 26 too?
What, y'all come on.
Team 26.
Mrs. Thurman, come on, Mrs. Calhoun. Y'all come up here.
Okay. I didn't know Miss Brandy was here.
Yeah. Oh, I'm in front. Look, hey.
Okay.
Come on, Miss Chambers. Come on, my cousin. House members. Come on. My cousin. Oh, y'all know that's my cousin. All right. Which way first? Oh, Lord.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Great. I'm gonna give my presentation now. And I know we're running behind, so I will be very brief. Or as brief as, you just give me a 3-minute signal.
Okay, let me ask Miss Liz. Yeah. Would it be okay if we do a little overtime? Can you find out, can we do a little overtime? Because then we have Mr. James, who is gonna speak also. He's gonna be short, but just a little bit.
I'll keep mine down. Once again, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here, and I'll be very brief this time. Great to see you, Delegate Woods. And Ms. Brandy, great to see you. For those of you who don't know, I started out as a student at Crossland High School, and I was an intern working for Ms. Brandy here in Senator Muse's office. So it's always great when she's in the room. I do want to notify the Civic Association of 3 bills that I think will be of great interest to you. One of the major issues that I heard when I was out door knocking was that we have so many liquor stores, tobacco stores, and convenience stores, 24-hour tobacco stores. Yes. And so I introduced the bill months ago, CB9. And what CB9 did was it said that if you're going to be a tobacco store, you can no longer be in our residential neighborhoods, one. Two, you must close your doors by 10 p.m. and you can't have the LED lights. Right now, we have a lot of 24-hour tobacco stores. And outside of those 24-hour tobacco stores, there's a lot of loitering and crime. And so we are pulling the tobacco stores out of our residential neighborhoods and we're putting them in industrial zones. Thank you. And so this will apply immediately to any new entity attempting to be a tobacco store. But under state law, we can't just immediately kick out the current ones that exist. And so there's a certain period that they have, which will be between now and January 1, 2026, to come out of our residential zones. And by law, we have to give them that time period because they have a business and in order to be fair to them. So I wanted to notify you of that. So we passed that, and then we had a lot of convenience stores and gas stations said, oh, this doesn't apply to us. You know, we're convenience stores, we're not tobacco stores. And so we had to go back in under CB 31 to define what a tobacco store is. A tobacco store, we defined it that if you're selling more than 5% of tobacco products, we then deem you as a tobacco store. So that's a big one that comes from the People's Council. Next, we have CB 42. This is a bill that has not yet passed. It's currently being worked on, and that is to designate funding for senior citizens with rental assistance and mortgage assistance. And right now, we were actually in a meeting right before this, negotiating to actually fund it. So that's one that I would encourage you to be on the lookout on. Another one that I know that's very important to folks is CB 37, and that gives us the ability to prosecute illegal dumping using cameras. We have certain illegal dumping hotspots, several illegal dumping hotspots throughout the district. CB 37 will allow us to prosecute and fine individuals using surveillance cameras. So those are the three bills. We also have copies of the senior tax credit here that I know you all know about. There are the applications there. Please fill them out. We're happy to take them with us and to submit them for you, or you can submit them on your own. Last year, I came here and I said, we're working on something very special with our local development council funds. And most people didn't realize we had local development council funds. We have one more vote to take as it relates to this major initiative, but I announced it here first. And that's anyone who lives in our district will be able to go to community college completely tuition free. And that will only be for our area using those funds. And so, and the LDC fought me on it, but it doesn't matter. We're gonna do what's in the best interest of the people here. And for so long, when you look at how those funds have been spent, they have been spent funding things that our tax dollars should already fund. And it's important that we reallocate those funds to actually provide additional services for the residents who live here. And so the community college will be one that we will be announcing very soon. And it's not just for the tuition credit courses. They have a lot of senior programming. They have a lot of certifications. And I want to make sure that we use the money. There's a fear that people won't apply in the district and the money will go to waste. I'm counting on all of us to spread the word, but we'll be in touch. I know I can go on and on for hours, so I'll stop talking now. Thank you very much, Camp Springs. Thank you very much, President Taylor.
We know you're tired.
Yeah,
he just got off that plane. We know you're tired. Thank you so much.
So glad to be here. Thank you so much.
As he said, there's applications up here. You have to be 65 years older, been in your home for 10 years, your home, it's $500,000 and less that you can get the tax credit, the senior tax credit. The applications up here. If you can, you have people in your neighborhood who need these applications, please take an application. Okay, we would appreciate it. They did give us 15-minute grace. So without further ado, I have my bestie who's here, Mr. Walter James from the Office of Communication and Relations. Y'all give him a round of applause, please.
Good evening, Camp Springs. How's everybody doing tonight? First of always, I'd like to give honor to God because he is my source, and without him, I am nothing. Also want to recognize the Central Baptist Church family for hosting this event, and to the shepherd of this house. I also want to say thank you to my bestie, good friend, who's always in the community doing great things, President McTaylor, for her leadership as well. As she stated, my name is Walter James. I serve as the unit chief for the Office of Community Relations Outreach Unit for Prince George's County. Our job and our mission as a part of the Office of Community Relations is to connect people and connect resources. I bring you greetings from our Director Unisha Davis, as well as our Deputy Directors, Deputy Director Courtney Marriott, who oversees our Common Ownership Division, as well as our Programs Unit, as well as Director Allison Flores, who's my supervisor, who oversees outreach. There's a couple things I just want to share as it relates to the Office of Community Relations and what we are doing. We have a few new team members. I do want to recognize them as well. One is Miss Thea Rafford. She oversees our Programs Unit, as well as Miss Michonne Hall, who oversees our Common Ownership Communities Unit. Let me tell you a little bit about Common Ownership. We have several units within our agency. The Common Ownership Unit deals with HOAs, condo associations, and co-ops. So if there are any issues you have as it relates to how these boards are set up and how the bylaws and how things should be ran, and as far as the development with common ownership, Ms. Michonne Hall, she now leads that unit, and I'll leave my information if you want to get in contact with her as well. I do want to thank the Camp Springs community. I was able to join many of you for our Growing Green with Pride initiative that we held on April 22nd. I was out here doing some cleanup with the family because I believe this strongly. As someone who's been in the community for a while, in order for a community to thrive, in order for a community to grow, the substratum must be safe and clean community. So those two things in place, a community can really grow and thrive. So thank you so much, Camp Springs, for all the work you've been doing there. This past April 29th, many of you know Christmas in April. Christmas in April is one of those initiatives and an organization within Prince George's County who seeks to provide resources, whether it's fixing up properties or landscaping, for many of our residents who are in need. Many of you know that as we go through COVID, many say COVID is over, but I think we're still in the midst of that pandemic, so we almost must be cautious. But that has really put a strain on a lot of our residents. And some of them may not have the resources to do proper cleaning of their yards and upkeep of that property. So the Office of Community Relations took on a home of Mr. Stephen Wood. He's an 80-year-old resident in Prince George's County. And we were able to really make a positive impact on his community and make him really feel like he's valued in the community. We're doing some things. So those are some of the things that we do in our office. Now, my unit within outreach, many of y'all know about 311. 311 is definitely one of the major units or components within our Office of Community Relations. And I always like to explain to individuals about 311. 311 is similar to 911 in dispatch. So when you call 311, 311 is gathering that information and they're sending that information to the proper agency that's supposed to take care. So if you have an issue with signage, a sign is missing, you call 311 about that sign. 311 sends that over to the Department of Public Works and Transportation, and they're the ones that handle that. Now, our office and my unit comes into play where we work with 311 on the go and outreach to work with the resident to get those things resolved. So I encourage you all to continue to call 311 for whatever issue you have, that there's potholes, that's abandoned cars, there's down trees, please call 311 so we can have that in the system. But also, how many of y'all had downloaded our 311 PGC 311 app? We have a new app that we downloaded. Now, we appreciate everyone downloading that app, but one thing we want to encourage also is that you complete the surveys. Every time we launch something new in the county, we want to have that feedback from the community to ensure that it's effective, that it's doing what we propose that it would do. So when you put in a service request, that initial service request, there's a survey that's going to come to your email. And that first initial survey is going to speak to what's the user friendliness of the app? Was it easy to use? Was it easy to put in your service request? Was it easy to follow? So we encourage individuals to complete that survey. Once the issue has been resolved, it shows complete in our system, there's another survey that's going to come to your email to say, was this completed to your satisfaction? Because we take this information and we go back to our developers and our team to ensure we are enhancing that product as well. One of the things that's coming up, and I do want to mention this, we have several flagships that we do within the Office of Community Relations. I talked about Christmas in April. From June 1st to September, from June 1st to the end of September, we have something called the 100 Events of Summer, where we seek to do community events throughout the entire Prince George's County. So if there are community events that you want us to be a part of, that we can bring resources. As I said earlier, we connect people, we connect resources. So we're that arm that reaches out to different agencies within the county so they can come and provide that information to your event. So if you have events, please be sure to share that with us. And I do want to, before I conclude, definitely say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers that are in the house tonight, and those are even online. Because you mean so much to our community, really the backbone of our community, and really helps our community grow and sustain. I do want to share individuals. As I say, my name is Walter James. If you have any outstanding service requests that you feel that need to be addressed or you need information, please give me a call. This is my personal county cell phone number, 240-204-4159. Again, that's 240-204-4159. And my email address is wjames, that's WJAMES @co.pg.md.us. Again, that's wjames @co.pg.md.us. Thank you so much for your time. The phone number again is 240-204-4159. Again, that's 240-204-4159. Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes.
One of the things that we have to do when they call in, and sometimes we have to refer them to 311.
Can't hear you.
Get the mic. It's right there, this man. Right behind you. Right behind you. The left. You need me?
Oh, you did? Okay. Here we go.
I said that I work for Senator Muse as well as Delegate Turner with the constituents. And my question is, a lot of times we have constituents that we have to refer to 311.
Yes.
And sometimes their question to us is, well, 311 doesn't get back with us. But my question is, what's the turnaround time if you all are getting the information or 311's getting the information, then they send it to someone else. So I would like to have a time frame to tell the constituents so that they won't get frustrated with us for something that, not necessarily your office is accountable for, but held accountable for the responsibility of taking care of them, to making sure that they're getting taken care of.
You bring up a great question. Thanks for that question. I'm going to answer that in two parts. One of the things we try to do within the Office of Community Relations is the follow-up. Even as a resident of Prince George's County myself, if I call in with an issue and I hear nothing, even if it's not completed, because I tell the staff all the time, residents know that things can't be fixed tomorrow, but you have to have that follow-up and that dialogue to let you know where it stands. So in our office, we are working together to work with our community liaisons that are assigned to each councilmatic district to ensure that they are doing that follow-up on a regular basis. Now, another piece of this we're working on, when you call 311, and these timeframes for things getting accomplished are set by the different agencies. So we're working on, I was sharing with some of the residents earlier, like for instance, if you call to get a trash can, they'll say it takes 3 months. Personally, Walter James, shouldn't take any 3 months. So when you get those calls and residents, and they have service requests, please reach out to me in the office, and I ensure that our community liaison will be following up with your office as well as their constituent to let them know this is the status and this is where we are with this process. And some of those things that we can work with the agency to move along a little faster, because our director as well as the other agencies are working to shorten those time frames for things getting accomplished. No problem. Thank you all so much for having me tonight. Thank you.
How's everybody doing? My name is Delonte Harrison, your vice president. I just got sworn in. Yeah, all right. First of all, I want to thank all the representatives that are coming out today and for everybody to come out. We really appreciate you guys coming out. It was a hard work. We put us in a lot of work to try to pass out flyers and also let everybody know about the meeting. Well, thank everybody for coming out. And without you, there's no community. I just want to let y'all know that. Without you guys, there's no community. And we try our best to bring all the information that we learn or we know that's going on in the county here so you can be educated and know what's going on in your community, because it's important. We live here, and it's important that if I know something, you should know it too. So, you know, as a community leader, you know, we rely on the neighbors. We rely on our neighbors, our representatives. We rely on you for information so we know what the community is doing. I can't be in your block. I can't be all over in your neighborhood. But if you talk to us, if you come to the meetings and you tell us what's going on, then we're able to figure out what we need in the community. So by me saying that, you know, if we work together and we can make the community a better place than what it is. You know, we are responsible for we're responsible for our community. We just have to tell the representatives what we need. So what I'm reaching out to you, because I'm always asking people, I need people to join. I need people to join the Civic Association. We need more volunteers. We need more people in committees. We need, you know, it's easier when we have more people to do things. It's very simple. We have meetings to go to, and there's, you know, there's a lot of things that we need done. But everybody has a skill. Everyone has a skill in here, regardless of what it is. The job that you work or, you know, something you learn in school, all that's valuable when it comes to the community center. I mean, when it comes to the Civic Association, because all your little skills matter, because once we put it all together, it's so simple and so easy. That's why I keep volunteering, because I'm learning from you guys. I'm learning from the community. I'm learning from the representatives. And that forces me to keep volunteering, you know. So I just want to reach out to you guys and say, hey, talk to your neighbors, tell them to join. Reach out to people online, join if you're not a member, and reach out to your neighbors, talk about Camp Spring, let them know what we're doing here, because that encourages more people to want to join and be a part. And we have plenty of committees that we have spots for. Even if you at home and just go to one of the meetings that we have, just take some notes and just let us know what they're talking about, because we just need to know what's going on so we can stay up on what's going on, because there's a lot of money, there's a lot of programs, there's so much going on, but we need more people to be involved. So my spiel is to, you know, become a member if you're not already, or join the committee if you are, you know, because that will make our lives and make your lives better, because we're going to do we're going to do what we're going to do. It's volunteer, but it's not a job. I live here and I want the best. I want it to be the best. And I encourage you guys to do the same. You know, that's what I have. That's my spiel. I think the president, I guess she's over there, but we just want you guys to be a part of us. You know, let's be one family, to know each other, know your neighbors, because where I live, everyone on my block knows they have my name and they know me and they have my number. And I encourage you to, you know, be the same. I know it's going to be hard because my neighbor said, my side, your side. And I was looking at him like, okay. And I cut his grass and I, you know, sent him stuff over. And he's like, hey, Tay, and now he has my number. You know, I don't let people dictate. We got to be a community. We are responsible. We need to be a community. And this is how it starts. We're already strong, but we can be stronger. So I encourage you guys to join the Civic Association and tell your neighbors. Speak it like I speak it. I encourage people to move into Camp Springs, and I've done that. And they love the community. So my charge to you is just let's try to be a part more, you know, because every little bit that you do helps us so much. And that's all I have to say. I just want to thank you guys for coming out. It's such a good turnout, and I'm so happy.
One second. Give us 1 second. You're getting old like me. Yeah, what? You're getting old like me, y'all.
That's right. I've got this announcement. So the Beltway Church of Christ, they have some activities coming up. And I want to mention that before we go. On Thursday, the 29th, they have a farmer's market, and that Beltway Church of Christ is at 6,000 Davis Boulevard in Camp Springs, Maryland. And yeah, so they're gonna have that's on Thursday, June the 29th. It's a farmer's market, and also they're having the farmer's market on the 27th, August. Yes, ma'am. It says, I looked up, it's 6,000 Davis Boulevard. I think it's on
It's
off road. Yes, yes, ma'am. And so they're having it on Thursday, July 27th, Thursday, August the 10th, and Thursday, August the 24th. It's the farmer's market. So come out and give them some support. You know, pick up some food and stuff like that. And like I said, we're Camp Springs. We're trying to put everybody on the market. We're trying to make this the best community ever. And with your help, it can be easy, and we can do it. I'm gonna turn it back over. Thank you so much.
No, we just said that. And then we had our legislative director. She talked about how they put a bill out about having healthy food in our community. So y'all support the efforts of Beltway Church of, you know, Christ. And you know, they're, of course, we got to support our own. They're here in Camp Springs. So go out there and get you some fresh fruit. Because look, I know I got to slim down, y'all. I have picked up some weight in the last 6 weeks. So let's get us some fresh fruit and vegetables. But with that being said, are all minds clear? All minds are clear. Now remember, the fundraiser, get your t-shirts. Remember, June the 11th, we're having the cleanup. More than likely, we're gonna meet at the Royal Farm and we're gonna clean that area. We just wanna do, you know, this is our home and, you know, it's our global Camp Springs home, and we have to do our part to show that, you know, we live here and we don't want, because, you know, if your area isn't clean, it brings elements that you don't want in your community. So that's why we do these monthly cleanup, and we just want to do our part. So please come out, look for the emails, look on the website for the June the 11th cleanup. And that is going to be from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. And that's a Sunday. And we will have other things that we want you all to get involved in. Thank you. We appreciate I want to thank our legislative district for coming out. Give them a round of applause. We thank you for all you do. We want to thank our councilman and his staff for coming out. Just think, he got off that plane and he said, I had to get to this meeting. So we want to thank him. We sent him home so he can get some rest. Oh, he's still here. I thought you went home to get some rest. Oh, okay. Well, y'all stay safe. Love you all and have a good night. Next meeting, September the 14th. September the 14th. We have a summer break from community meeting, but we don't have a summer break in our activities of what we're going to do to better our. Oh, okay. And if you want, they have some paperwork up here for y'all pick up. Look, they got the applications for the senior tax credit. They have information on Senator Muse on what they've done this year to better our community. And yes, you have and our Delegate Woods has some information also. So y'all come get this information. Let me give you Delegate's email. Okay, thank you. Good night. You can get more than one. You better get some for your neighbors. Come on, y'all. Y'all get some for them neighbors. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's fine. Just like you took my phone last time.
Thank you everyone for joining our virtual Camp Springs Civic Association meeting for May. Remember that we will be on summer break and we will not resume until September the 14th. Thank you and have a great summer.